wasn't just because we called, it's because
It's cuts, real cuts.
it's
is what I
cuts, real
heard.
cuts.
Yes.
And unless we have cuts, the hand wringing and all, I understand about, 2 to 1.
It's
I
cuts-
understand that, but we have to change this direction,
It's cuts, real
no
cuts.
matter what.
I understand.
And if they're not real cuts and CBO is just a bunch of hand waving, we can't have CBO be our standard. If the American people look at what comes out of the super committee and we are being told on CBO's side that it is a good thing, but we know that those are not real cuts, then he should vote against it. And all of them, all of these Houston area people who are Republicans, who vote with leadership, because leadership's that's the strategy for success. If that is not taking us to less spending, then they should vote against it. How does it help us for these people to be in leadership if our spending is increasing?
I hear what you're saying, Julie. And I would say
Well, how does it help us?
the goal is always real cuts. The goal is always shrinking the size of government. And I would say, cuts, real cuts is the battle cry. But at the same time, when Mr. Baumann mentioned, dropping the baseline, if we can drop the baseline, then that is an achievement. And so it's not just the dollar
enough
cuts.
anymore. It's not good enough.
You got to do both. You got to cut dollars, plus you got to cut the baseline.
See,
So
we don't like the
eliminate
baseline budgeting process at all.
I guess the words, I'm not using the right words, because it's not I'm not advocating for that model. I'm saying that if the assumption is that you're going to spend $10, that's your baseline,
Yeah.
we start at 10 instead of 0, and I get that 10 down to 8, so you don't start at 10 anymore, you start at 8, I've dropped your baseline. That's a step in the right direction. Now, can I get you down to 0 so that we don't have that assumption of spending before anyone takes a vote? Certainly, that's the fundamental flaw we were talking about earlier.
Let me say it another way. We perceive the baseline budgeting process as part of the 3-card monte game that's been played on us for decades. The system is not functional, and it doesn't contribute anything to our effort to put government back in a box. So that whole baseline budgeting thing has got to go. And Mr. Brady is going to end up, and he probably already is to a certain extent, at odds with the Republican leadership. I'll repeat again, he needs to understand how passionate we are and how supportive we can be as he walks further out on that limb. If he goes far enough, he's going to end up with the establishment support pulled away. He's got to know that they're his people, my people, are behind him. So just kicking when we talk about baseline budgeting and cutting it by this percent, to me, that's just kicking the can down the road.
That's it.
And I appreciate the improvement. I don't discount the improvement. It's valued. But it's not going to get us where we need to be.
Right.
I was listening to Senator DeMint on the way over here, and he pointed out very emphatically that this country is borrowing right now its net worth.
40 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, and also that that the Federal Reserve is buying up all our debt, and under that circumstance, he says people predict that the fallout could be like 5 years down the road. I don't predict that. I believe it's right at our door. And we've got to stop spending. If I want to buy a home and I don't have any money, everybody tell me what to do.
Save your money. Put yourself on a budget,
Everybody-
save your money so you can come up with a good healthy down payment.
Well, what I'm saying is, there's no such thing as going out and buying it.
No.
I don't have the money.
If you don't have the money, you can't
Well,
buy
this federal government, if I do that in my home,
it.
the federal government should certainly represent me by doing some common sense things. We don't have the money. I told Mr. Brady at the last meeting, you were there. Washington doesn't have a spending problem. They got a moral problem. They're stealing from the people that they're representing and my grandchildren and my new great-granddaughter. And that's got to stop, man.
Generational theft is what we called it.
Yeah, well,
Yes,
call it what you want to call it. I
exactly.
call it stealing. The Bible says, thou shalt not steal. So the way our country was established on those principles, our Congress has lost touch, not just with the Constitution, we've lost touch morally with God whom we know is our creator, and we get our rights from him. We're asking the federal government to protect those rights. And we're losing that. We're not hearing that from Congressman Brady and a lot of other people up in Washington,
Right.
okay?
I tell you, on the deficit side, you know, you guys have heard us say, and I think your group actually supported the Ryan budget, where we are so deep in a hole that it will take 50 years for us to not only balance the budget, but to pay off the debt. But 50 years. I'll be 83 years old. My children will be 55 and 53, respectively. But if that's what it takes to dig out of the hole, then that's what it takes. And Republicans and the House managed to pass that plan. Not only pay off the debt, but balance the budget. It took 50 years to do
Yeah,
it.
50 years is unacceptable, because, you know, what you're assuming is everything else stays the same.
Right.
Nothing stays the same.
We
And,
don't-
you know, John just referred to the debt, and the Federal Reserve buying the debt. The interest rate we're paying, and I've talked to Congressman Brady about this before, the interest rate we're paying on our debt right now is artificially low. And it's not gonna last very long. And when that hits reality, and we start having to pay a real interest rate in this country on our debt, all of a sudden there's gonna be a lot of mandatory spending that we're gonna have that we can't control. So we're not, you know, this $15 trillion and the current level of spending, we have to go way, way down quickly if we're gonna get any prayer of paying this off in 50 years. And,
Plus
and there's just not the seriousness, and there's not, you know, nobody's really blowing the horn. Everybody's kind of playing on that playing field, you know, clipping around the edges, but nobody's really going in and saying,
Kicking
we
the
got a
can
serious problem here,
down the
we
road.
gotta change the parameters, everything has changed, and we really have to address this now, and we gotta cut severely.
The fact is, if we don't get it,
Nothing
focused, and our current president is reelected next year, 2013 is when it's gonna hit. Because what's going on right now is both sides are trying to punt this past, you know, the election next year. And I'm telling you that, you know, all that mandatory stuff kicks in 2013, we are gonna get our heads handed to us. And what's gonna happen then is you're gonna see people around this room do exactly the same thing they did the last time, which is throw them all out. And either stay home, or they won't, you know, or they'll try to get somebody else, and we'll have another Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid Congress, and we're done. This country is done.
I don't, do you think these people in this room are gonna let Nancy Reid and Harry, or
I'm
Nancy Pelosi
I'm
and
telling
Harry
you
Reid come
that
back?
the problem with Republicans are that Republicans are principled. And, you know, and when they see their side not making a real effort to get this done, they're not gonna support them.
Yeah, there's what we call the rhinos, Republicans in name only, but they don't hold to the conservative values that we represent.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This ain't nothing personal with you, Sarah, you know
No,
that.
I understand that.
You know that.
I don't,
We're just very frustrated.
no, and I understand that.
No, I'm fine.
And I know, I didn't see you guys come with tents or tarps, so I assume this is not Occupy Conroe.
No, it's not, but, you know, Congressman Brady, what is his position up there relative to leadership?
Mr. Brady is the deputy whip. He is a deputy whip.
And what does that mean?
That he works with the conference to see if we have the votes to pass legislation.
It means also, would you say, that he encourages people to vote with a particular plan?
It does in
It does
some
mean that,
cases, but a
yes.
lot of times members vote their conscience.
So
So you count noses more than you just say, where are you, yes, no, maybe, where are you, yes, no, maybe.
But I feel like Congressman Brady may be pulled in two directions, because he's got us over here saying,
No.
we have seriously got to cut this. And you've got John Boehner on the other side saying, this is our plan for success, and we can't get there right now because we've only got the House, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the White House, so we're just gonna do what we can do right now. And we all feel like there is not enough being done. And he is beholden to his constituency of John Boehner more so than with us.
Julie, I feel like at the end of the day, you guys know our record, you know our voting record, and you know also that Mr. Brady appreciates the accountability of the Tea Party. He's told you that himself. You guys are welcome in this door anytime. And we always, at the end of the day, he's going to do his homework, and he's going to make the best decision possible for our constituents and for our district. That's his motto, and that's his approach. We do our homework, we find out what the facts are, we appreciate the accountability of the Tea Party, and we answer to you guys. We have more town halls, we have more dialogue with our grassroots, I would venture to say, than most members of Congress.
You do. You absolutely do. You are lovely people to deal with, and we appreciate that very much. And we are still scared to death that your, 53-year-old child is just now, in 50 years, going to be able to get out of debt, if we even last that long. It's not about.
But the
It's
Ryan
not
plan was
personal.
something we all agreed on. Even our grassroots, you guys partnered with us on Ryan in supporting
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
a fundamental
But
reform
that
of
was the
Medicare.
start, that
It doesn't-
wasn't the end.
Right.
It
No,
doesn't
I
take
agree.
that whole thing that he's talking about, the interest payments taken off,
Yeah.
is totally outside of Ryan, and it could crater us.
The thing, so you guys have seen the charts too, where today, between Medicare, Social Security, and interest on the debt, every dollar you send to Washington goes to those 3 programs. I haven't filled a
That's
pothole,
right.
I haven't paid a soldier, I haven't done anything.
That's
But
right.
2 of those programs are the entitlement debate, which we've had time and time again. And we all agree.
But the sense of urgency seems to be missing. When I see $15 trillion, and it seems to me like it was just a month or 2 ago, I saw $14 trillion. I mean, where's the sense of urgency to address this? Because this money just flowing out, and nobody's putting any we're picking around the edges. That's really how I see it.
Yes.
All
Picking
this is
around the
great,
edges.
I appreciate all these votes and all these reductions, but it's not addressing that $15 trillion clock.
And all those votes that you just referenced, sum total's like 11 trillion.
Yeah,
And I've
but
got
not
15.
today. If it was 11 trillion today,
The
we wouldn't have
Obamacare
the
repeal
problem.
was like 8 trillion today.
I understand, but this is why I think it's time for Congressman Brady to take an independent position and say, I'm not going to support anything unless something like the map's in there.
Yes.
Well, I'll
We've
take that
run
back.
we've run out of time. We've run totally out of time. We've got to start being serious today.
And
And I don't care if there's an election a year from now, we have to take a stand, a principled stand, and I'm taking it.
I've
There you
heard
go.
And he's in a
Right.
perfect position, if anybody up there, to do that. As long as he's been there and with the other things that he holds, he's in the perfect position to stand up and say, guys, enough is enough is enough. We've got to go this way.
And he needs to know we're hoping when he does that, he will be at odds with his leadership.
Yes.
He needs to know that we understand that. And if all these big numbers we're kicking around, if you look at the present value of those numbers, what are they? You look at the future value of the dollar, it's not much. It makes it even smaller.
That's why I think on the super committee fight, we're asking for 1.5 trillion over the same amount of time that the government will spend 40 trillion. That's not an impossible task. It's not a big ask.
Should be
And
easy.
that it should be easy. And
Well-
we've said that's why either you succeed or we go to sequestration,
Yeah, but-
where it's even more painful.
Think about what
But
you
you're getting
just
your
said.
1.2
Right.
cuts
Just
in
think
the
about
same,
what you just
come
said.
hell or high water.
Yeah, but you're talking about, you're still talking about we can balance the budget or whatever in 50 years. We won't have a country in 5 years.
That's
This
right,
country
absolutely.
is down the tubes in the toilet in less than 5
That's
years.
what the men said.
We will be living under communism, socialism, Marxism in less than 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bottom line. We don't have that kind of time.
If you-
50 years, forget it.
Well, you know,
There
we
won't
did
be a
this to
United States of
ourselves.
America then.
We did this to ourselves, we let all this happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know,
The silent majority has been silent way too long.
When 3% of Texans got in vote in the last election, what do you expect?
What I need to see from Brady is a statement of where he stands, but with authority, and tell the rest of the good old boys in the GOP to either pack up and get out and let the good conservatives who speak for the rest of us. I need to see authority, and I need to see sincerity.
Amen.
And the way these politicians use the English language, oh, he's just being ingenuous. Call him a liar. He is a liar. And Obama lies every hour on the hour.
Yeah, how do
I'm
you know
tired
if
of
Obama's
it.
lying, his lips are moving?
I'm tired of it.
One thought, just really quick. You guys know our YouTube channel. You'll see every TV interview he's done. He talked to Neil Cavuto this week. If you haven't seen it and you want to see the sincerity and the genuineness, just tune in and see the statement and the
I
authority.
need
And
to
the
see
second
the
thought-
authority. I need to see
I'm
it with
telling ya.
authority
I want to see
and
a no vote.
passion.
I want to see a no vote on something that doesn't seriously cut.
Right.
1.2 trillion.
It's
Is there
got to
a mark?
cut. No, I don't
I
care about
guess it's bare, I
CBO.
think it's bare minimum.
We
That's the
seriously-
starting point.
That's
Yes.
the starting point.
But think about it, 1.2 trillion, over a period of time, they're spending 40 trillion.
Right.
Over a
listen,
period of time where,
choir
on the
and-
spending projection we have, our debt's probably gonna at least double. You know, that's a Band-Aid.
And let me
It's-
tell you,
it's-
you know why it's doubling? Because I got 10,000 seniors a day qualifying for Social Security and Medicare.
That's
I
right.
And
understand.
2/3
I
of my
understand.
debt is driven by 2
I
entitlement
understand,
programs.
I understand why it's happening. I understand that we have to make some serious structural changes in this country. And I'd like to see that sense of urgency and people start talking about that instead of being afraid to talk about it. The only people that'll talk about it are the presidential candidates.
I'm telling you, we're talking about it. We talk about reforming Social Security all the time. We talk about Medicare reform all the time. The Ryan budget addressed
Well-
Medicare reform, hence the DCCC. You know you're doing a good job when the DCCC runs ads. I'm sorry, that's just typically how you know you've hit a soft spot.
What about the
And when you talked
200?
about the money flowing out the door, 2/3 of that money is my entitlement programs.
I understand.
It's not on the discretionary side.
But what about the 200 million that was spent on a bridge for a turtle? What about the 200 million that was spent on a shrimp on a treadmill, for heaven's sakes? All of these stupid things that went to somebody's pocket that came out of my earnings. That's what needs to be cut.
Yeah. I don't
That's
know if
what
we
needs to be
disagree.
cut. Take those pages and rip them out of the book and say it stops, period. That'll cut 13 trillion down. Yes, it will.
How many calls on average do you get a day from seniors that are concerned about?
Quite a bit. I've got a stack of petitions in my office
50?
from AARP that has convinced them.
AARP is in the
I'm
tank.
just saying, just so you know, you asked how many constituents.
AARP is in the tank. It's socialist.
I'm not disputing what you're telling
Oh, I
me. You asked
understand
me how many seniors contact our office. I'm telling you, I got a stack of petitions from AARP.
Constituents.
Constituents who are convinced that they're not gonna get their checks or that we are gonna
Right.
slash Medicare or Social Security.
The reason I ask that is they call you. But I discussed this matter too, and it kind of varies off, but it doesn't, what I want to say here. Is I'm here to represent 4,000 people that couldn't be here today because they were aborted. And they have no voice. They can't call you on the phone. And the federal government spends a lot of my tax money on murdering babies in this nation at the tune of over 50 million already since Roe versus Wade in 1973. That's got to stop, man. And you know what? I'm getting tired of seeing my congressman sign bills that does not eliminate Planned Parenthood and all these other places. I'm getting tired of that.
I will tell you, you know
And just
Mr.
kicking
Brady's
the
record
can
on
down the
pro-life.
road, and that's still in there.
Let me tell you, you know our position on pro-life, you know our position on
I understand
Obamacare
his
paying for
permission.
abortion,
Yes, I
and you know
understand that.
reinstating
Yes,
the
and
Hyde
and I'm
Amendment.
proud of Congressman Brady's record. But he still signs bills that still fund Planned Parenthood
We
and
stripped
the
their
abortion.
money out in the CR.
He
We
needs to
stripped
raise
their
his
money
voice,
out.
just like this gentleman said, about
Yes.
the economic, conservative issues, about the social issues as well.
Our voice is there on
I'm
the
here to
social
voice,
issues.
for, like I said, for 4,000 people that can't be here yesterday, and today another 4,000 will leave. our
I was
presence.
born in '78, I heard a statistic
Yeah.
that there's only one of me and there should be 2 more.
Well, you know, regardless of what you've heard, we stand around and talk about abortion. I think Ronald Reagan had said it best. He said, it's easy for us to do that because nobody aborted us. And so I'm standing here asking you to tell Congressman Brady that I truly, as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, disapprove of his signing bills that still murder the unborn.
I hear what you're
Okay?
saying.
I'm just voicing as his constituent.
And I'm telling you too, on the Planned Parenthood specifically, we stripped out their funding. That was one of the major issues in the last Duke 'em Out session.
I want Brother Brady to go out on the limb a little further.
And he said what I said earlier.
Just what-
And we're trying to say we're here to back him up because
Yeah.
we know he's going to have to decouple
What
from
I'm
the.
I guess too on the abortion issue, guys, and what I'm trying to communicate is that we've stripped out the funding, we've reinstated Hyde. There have been major moral victories. And I don't understand why you feel like that's not been accomplished when it
It's
has.
not, we're still murdering babies, man. It won't be accomplished till we get
Abortion
it out.
is still legal in this country. You're
I know that,
right.
we need to change that, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely, but that's not gonna happen
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
through,
When we clean the house out and put people that are like-minded, that'll make it happen.
that's gonna be, I understand.
It's not gonna be 50 years from now.
I
It
understand
may
what
be
you're
2
saying.
years from now.
So can I ask what you heard him saying about decoupling Congressman Brady and leadership? Because he's tied to it, we see that. And so when the whole super committee thing, this was a great idea, you know, he supported that, he supported that. And we had
It wasn't a great idea.
we had serious concerns.
We stood up in the town hall and articulated
Okay,
our
but he
position on
he
that.
still supported it.
Because at the end
And
of the day, we're
our
all
fear
for
is
that debt
he's
increase.
going to support whatever comes out of the super committee if MAP is not in there, even though MAP is his.
I
and
have
should
to ask
be in
about
there.
MAP and the super committee.
That's what I want to see. We want to see him vote against it unless MAP is there. And now, you know, we had a wonderful debate, and it was just wonderful to see our bank account. And we want to use those resources in part to underscore, to draw, that people know how deep the hole is right now. And they know that we have got to go a different direction. And Congressman Brady and all of you guys are so smart, you know how the system works. Figure out how to do it. But we're going to underscore the fact that spending continues to go up if you vote for these things. It's as simple as that. It's just as simple as that.
And we're going to
And you guys
underscore
will
the
figure
fact
out how
that
to do that so that he is not carried along with the same wave of leadership which we do not see taking us in the right direction.
And I'll say it again, like, I hear what you're saying, I'll take it back to Mr. Brady. At the end of the day, you know his record, you know his voting record, he does his homework, and we will make the best possible choice we can for our constituents and with the, for the country.
You know, when George Bush was in office, our national debt went up about 4.7, 4.8 trillion dollars.
That was post 9/11.
8 years. I understand. 4.8 trillion. Obama's almost accomplished that in 4 years. He will. He will exceeded it in 4 years. But that's how we get 4 years. Mr. Brady's been there for all this period of time. Okay? I don't accept 9/11 as being the cause of that growth.
It's
Okay?
not in and of itself.
And let me finish my point. During those 6, 7 years so far, it'll be 8 years, excuse me, not 7, 11 years, it'll be 12 years by the time we get to the next election. During that period of time, we've gone from a country that had some possibilities, we had a lot more flexibility in coming up with solutions, to one that doesn't have a lot of options. We've done it to ourselves. Congressman Brady's been there throughout the whole time. And, I could say he's been part of the problem. Congressman Brady has to decouple himself from this problem, and he has to start finding solutions that stop that growth in the debt.
If I could just respond to one point that you made on the growth in the Bush administration and then Obama administration. One, the Bush tax cuts add to the deficit. In principle, we disagree with that. We think you should keep more of your money. That shouldn't count against the deficit. But that was one of the spikes. The wars on terror were a spike, and the recession with the collapse of Wall Street shortly after 9/11. So I just want, David has killed his tens of thousands, Saul's killed his
The baseline budgeting
thousands.
didn't have anything to do with that.
I'm not disputing baseline budgeting, but I'm saying you can't ignore those major
The drug
watermarks.
program, Part D, that Mr. Brady supported had nothing to do with it.
Part D actually has come in under cost.
Well, okay, there are a lot of new things that happened there in terms of increased spending that caused, you could say, well, the Bush tax cut caused it. I would say spending growth caused it.
I'm just saying it's not just one thing. It was spending, it's also Bush tax cuts, it's also war on terror, it's also the recession. It was a number of things.
My point is that the same leadership is largely there today that was there, Republican leadership, that was there during this whole 11-year period. Now these guys have helped dig this hole insofar as they didn't prevent it from happening. And they have got to stop it now. We've run out of options.
We got to quit being
We've
nice.
run to a point where this world's falling apart economically. What the Federal Reserve is doing to our debt is just absolutely atrocious.
That's right.
It's just creating a false sense that we have time. that things aren't as bad as they are. Things are in a terrible situation. I don't know whether we have 5 years, and I don't know whether we're gonna become communists at the end of the 5 years. I don't know what's gonna happen. I just know that we are hitting a wall, and we don't have time. And it's time for congressmen like Brady, who really believe in these things, to show it. To step out and start saying, we don't have time, we're gonna have to start putting things like MAP in there, or I'm not gonna support it.
Okay.
We need a lightning rod, and Brady could be it.
I'm looking for a statesman.
Yes.
You know, I want him just to step out there and do the right thing and get out of this establishment ring that he's in.
Cutting spending is the right thing.
Huh?
We don't disagree. Cutting spending is the right thing.
Yeah. I was really disappointed in the last vote. I was livid. And I'm just sort of sitting back to see what's fixing to happen.
Okay, Jimmy.
Tell,
I know.
tell him not to be so darn nice. He's a nice guy. He is. And these other people are playing hardball.
Statesmen are nice guys.
Huh?
Statesmen are gentlemen.
Well, but there's
I
a,
understand, but I just want a clarification.
but the other guys have got us down. The other guys have us down a dark alley and against the wall, and they're beating the hell out of us.
I've heard this analogy.
Yeah.
You gotta go.
Will you talk to him and get back with us and let us know what he's going to do about it?
I'll definitely. I communicate typically with Bill and Julie. That's typically who we visit with to kind of bring up to date. So I'll definitely let him know that you guys came by, you guys all signed in, and I think I got the theme. And actually, I know there's a tape, so even that would be helpful if you could maybe, that way I could just send in the whole dialogue. Okay?
Okay.